ride we have this weekend is going to take us to Shirakawago, which is a village in the neighboring prefecture of Gifu, right below Ishikawa. It's actually designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So the village is famous for the Gasho-zukuri style farmhouses, which is named for the really steep roofs that are like hands in prayer. From Uchinada in Ishikawa Prefecture to Shirakawago in Gifu Prefecture, it's about 107 kilometers, so today is going to take us 67 miles, and let's see how it goes.
Here we go. Journey.
That morning we left out of Uchinada and we started heading out on the Asanogawa cycling path, which follows the Asano River. It's a really scenic way to leave Uchinada and head towards Kanazawa.
What a nice little path.
My favorite part about the route that we took through Kanazawa is the way that we went through one of Kanazawa's 3 tea districts. So this is Kazuemachi, which is smaller than the famous Higashi-Chaya tea district, but it's very picturesque and it's right next to the Asano River. Here we got to ride by traditional chaya, or tea houses, that are preserved from the Edo period. These are still functioning today. From here we headed out of Kanazawa and we kept following the Asano River towards Kanazawa University. Around this time was when we started getting our first elevation changes, but the biggest hills were definitely yet to come. Around 14 miles in, we crossed the prefectural border into Toyama Prefecture.
Wow.
And we made a quick stop to get some more water and use the bathroom. I've said this before in my videos, but the vending machines in Japan are absolute lifesavers. I've used an outhouse before and I've used a pit toilet before, but this was my first time using a pit toilet outhouse. It really wasn't that bad though. Then we got back on the road and pretty soon we were in Fukumitsu.
These buildings are really colorful.
Which is a town in the Nanto area in Toyama.
So that should be Shirakawa-go over there.
As we rode, we kept getting closer and closer to this really daunting mountain range that we inevitably had to cross. It just looked bigger and bigger the closer we got to it. And finally, we reached the base of the climb.
Mile 27 and the start of a climb. Whew.
This was the biggest continuous climb of the route, but it had a really cool view both halfway up and from the top.
Wow.
This was the view about halfway up, and it was also a park where a lot of people were enjoying a picnic lunch and playing in the field, and it was a really cool atmosphere. We couldn't really tell what these tracks were for. I think there was construction that was happening on the road, but it definitely gave me some Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs vibes, and I kept thinking about how much fun it would be to get in a little cart with wheels and ride on those tracks all the way back down to the bottom.
We're like not far from the top. We're 30 miles in. We came from way down there, and we're almost at the top.
Zeb flew his drone from this overlook so that we could get a better view at just how beautiful this area of Toyama was. I thought that this was beautiful, and it definitely was, but I had no idea just how much more scenic this ride was going to get. However, the scenery came at a small price because the roads got much rougher from this point on.
Hello, snake. Goodbye, snake. Wow. Look at that.
This was our first view down into the Sho River gorge, and it was so stunning.
Oh, wow. I also had no idea how much I liked bridges until we went on this ride, and I found some of the coolest bridges I've ever seen. There were at least 10 bridges that we crossed on this ride.
Yeah, there's like a big road down there, and we go down and then we get on that road and then
We basically followed this river all the way to Shirakawa-go, and actually Shira means white and Kawa means river, so the name literally means white river or clean river. After following the river for a bit, we pulled away and went up into the mountains before returning back down to the river. Be careful. It didn't really look like cars used these roads very much, and in some places they just weren't passable by car at the moment. Wow. It was a really cool and scenic route, but it was a little bit risky because there was no guarantee that these pathways would be clear. We rode this in late September, and luckily the weather was on our side, and also there was no risk of snow or ice blocking our path. It was a very welcome sight when I finally saw this building and saw that we were rejoining a bigger road again. The adventurous part of the ride was really fun, but I was also really relieved to make it back onto a big road again and not worry so much about getting flat tires. Because this was a point-to-point ride from sea level up into the mountains, there was a lot more climbing on this route than there normally is in our rides. In about 64 miles, we climbed 8,000 vertical feet, which is about 2,400 meters. So although I couldn't read all of the hiragana and kanji that was on this sign, it was explaining the many bridges that we were about to cross, and it felt like the last 5 or 10 miles of this route were all bridges and tunnels, right into the heart of the mountains. I'd eaten all of my snacks at this point, and Zeb very kindly gave me one of his granola bars to scarf down. There were 2 really long tunnels right before we made it to Shirakawa-go. The final one, right after we crossed the bridge, we got into this tunnel, and it felt like we were in it for forever, and then we popped out, and we were suddenly in Shirakawa-go, like we had just gone through this time warp into a whole different period. We were staying in a really cute guest house just outside of the historic area of Shirakawa-go. There was even a Gashozukuri style roof right next to the building. We had a private room upstairs, which was really nice, and after putting my bags down, I immediately headed back downstairs to the showers. There were really nice bathrooms, and the kitchen had everything you could need, and the guest house owner even stocked the pantry with food that was pretty cheap that you could buy if you didn't want to walk into town to go to the convenience store. I thought that was a really cool touch. There was a really nice living and dining and sitting area, and then you could walk right outside into town. There were a lot of lunch options, but there were actually very few dinner options. Okay, now we're walking to dinner, and Zeb's coworker and friend was very kind to call the restaurant and make a reservation for us. So we don't speak enough Japanese yet to feel comfortable just calling up a restaurant. So if you're gonna stay here overnight, I would really recommend getting a reservation for dinner ahead of time. The restaurant that we got to eat in also happened to be someone's house, so it was very cozy inside. They had a couple different set menu options, and we were pretty hungry, so we both got the biggest option. It came with fish prepared 4 different ways: sashimi, grilled, boiled, and fried.
What is it? I don't know, but it's tasty.
And the coolest part about the restaurant is that when we ordered our dinner, the cook actually went outside and got the fish out of the pond and then cooked it right there. So it couldn't have gotten much fresher. Checkout was at 10 a.m. and before we rode back home, we wanted to go see Shirakawa-go in the daytime. So we got up really early and headed over to the historic part of the village. Seeing the village early in the morning before a lot of people arrived was really peaceful and enjoyable. It really just felt like you were in a different time. People do still live in this village today, and you can also visit a lot of the homes that have been converted into museums if you want to see what the houses look like on the inside. Zeb found some Shirakawa-go souvenir gachapod machines.
Trinket bags. Oh, we get like a little
Towel. This was right at the end of summer, right when fall was starting. But Shirakawa-go is probably most visited in the winter, and it actually has some of the heaviest snowfall in all of Japan. This was such a peaceful shrine. I would definitely recommend stopping by here if you visit. Finally, after walking through the main village of Shirakawa-go, we came to the famous 3 houses, which you'll probably see on a lot of Shirakawa-go's tourism advertising. On the way back, we stopped by a really cool bridge that was across the Sho River. Originally, we wanted to ride our bikes on the famous Hakusan Shirakawa-go White Road, but unfortunately, you're not allowed to ride bikes on that scenic road. You can also get to Shirakawa-go by bus if you are visiting Japan and you don't want to rent a car. And the Hokutetsu bus company has a regular bus that leaves from Kanazawa station and gets to Shirakawa-go in just over an hour. So that's a really easy option that's pretty affordable and easy to do if you want to see Shirakawa-go yourself. Now we're getting all packed up and ready to go back to Uchinada. But Shirakawa-go is really nice. I'm glad we got to come during the summer, but I hope we can come back in the winter too. I would definitely recommend this route. Maybe a slightly different, maybe some slightly less adventurous roads unless you've got some pretty good tires. But it was a lot of fun, very beautiful, and Shirakawa-go is pretty awesome.